Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We're discussing the verse. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى, and we mentioned several things already with regards to this. The last thing we were discussing was that not using the names of Allah Ta'ala correctly. And one of the things of ways of not using the names of Allah Ta'ala correctly, there are certain names in the list of the glorious names of Allah Ta'ala which have been used by the Quran and the Sunnah for human beings. So certain names that are for Allah Ta'ala, you find that names in the Quran, you find that names in the Sunnah that are for Allah Ta'ala, but yet you see that same name is used for besides Allah Ta'ala. So obviously from that you understand that this name you can use for besides Allah Ta'ala. Such names can be used for beings other than Allah Ta'ala. For example, Rahim, Rashid, Ali, Kareem, Aziz. So these ones that from the Sunnah, from the Quran, you learn they can be used for besides Allah Ta'ala. Right. What are the other names which denotes to exclusive attributes of Allah Ta'ala? So certain names, it points to the exclusive attributes of Allah Ta'ala. That is specific for Allah Ta'ala. Nobody else can use it. They use for anyone other than Allah Ta'ala is an act of deviation from these names. So to certain words that are specific for Allah Ta'ala, to use them from besides Allah Ta'ala, that's the act of deviation, like Rahman, Razzaq, Subhan, Khaliq, Quddus, and Ghaffar. Using such names for anyone other than Allah is prohibited in the Islamic Sharia. Now, if someone calls anyone other than Allah by these names because of a false belief, like I told you, you believe sometimes, like in India, more this happen, they believe that a certain pious person, he can decide what risk you must get. He can decide who must live, who must die, all that type of thing. So if you call somebody Razzaq, and you believe he has same attribute of Allah Ta'ala, that he apportions the risk, etc. If someone calls anyone other than Allah by these names because we solve belief, then they believe that he has the attributes denoted by these names. It will be an act of infidelity. So if you believe that somebody else is Razzaq like Allah Ta'ala, then this will be shirk. However, if someone use any of these names for anyone other than Allah, just heedlessly and for lack of knowledge, with not being fidelity, but rather similarities, but having similarities with it would be called a major sin. So simple, like somebody's named Abdul Razak, right? So we know one is this here, where you call somebody Razak and you believe that he apportions risk, like how Allah Ta'ala apportions risk. That's shirk. But sometimes, like how we do, we just call somebody Razak, but we don't believe he's the apportioner of risk. We don't believe he is the apportioner of risk. We're doing it because we're calling him short, right? You're calling his name short. Then that is not right. It's also a sin, but it is not shirk, you understood? It is a pity that Muslims in general are having a number of wrong practices with regard to naming the children and calling them improper names. There's a group of people who have abandoned the practice of naming the children with Islamic names. So nowadays you see people, they're looking more for fancy names. They want names that rhyme with English names, like they say Rubina, all that type of things, or Maria, or whatever, right? So there's a group of people who have abandoned the practice of naming their children Islamic names. The modern names having non-Islamic character mark it difficult to identify them as Muslims by their names. So now, when you see this person, you're not sure if this person is a Muslim or not. The modern names having non-Islamic character mark it difficult to define them as Muslims by their names, especially when their general appearance and manners are already devoid of Islamic character. Now people, they don't behave like Muslims, they don't dress like Muslims. Now also they want to give un-Islamic names, or I won't say un-Islamic names, but they want to give names that does not identify as Muslims. So that's why people will come to you as ulama, they will request you that look here, this child was born. So what you must tell him, advise him to give Quranic names. Give Sunnah names. Advise him to give names from the Sunnah, from the Sahaba Ikram, right? So the modern names having non-Islamic character mark it difficult to identify Muslims by their names, especially when their general appearance and manners are already devoid of Islamic character. The Islamic female names like Khadija, Aisha, Fatima have replaced now Mufti Saab is speaking here in Pakistan, India, names like Najma, Preven, Nasim, Shamim, and Shanaz, etc. More doubtful practice among Muslims is to heedlessly curtail the Islamic names like Abdul Khaliq, Abdul Rahman, Abdul Razak, Abdul Qudus, etc. Like you're saying, Khaliq, Rahman, Razak, Qudus. When calling people of these names, the attributes Khaliq, Rahman, Razak, etc., are all exclusive attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and using these attributes for anyone other than Allah is a major sin. The number of times one calls anyone by these attributes only commits. So every time you do that, you're committing a sin, right? To say somebody's Razak. The sinful practice has become quite common amongst Muslims for no gain. They have been committing the sinful act simply for being thoughtless to the gravity of this error. The present verse is warned against it by saying, سَيُجْزَوْنَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ, and they will be rewarded for what they do. They shall soon be recompensed for what they've been doing. Many evils are committed for certain worldly gains or benefits. So sometimes you sacrifice the deen for some dunyawi purpose. Anyone committing such evil deed may pretend to often excuse it being constrained by some necessity he committed the sin, while a great number of evil deeds are simply of no avail and produce no worldly benefit at all. Research your situation that people are seen committing such evil deeds for just being careless of the commands of Allah and being indifferent to what is prohibited or permitted by Allah. May Allah Ta'ala save us from such ignorance. Okay, so Alhamdulillah, that brings us to the end of the English explanation. Let's look at the kitab. Open the kitab. We still got a few minutes, inshallah. Okay, read Bismillah.
أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن لله
تسعة وتسعين
إن لله 99 اسما إلا واحدا.
Right. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أنا أبي هريرة نريت أثرت أبو هريرة رضي الله قال رسول إن لله تسعة وتسعين اسما, that Allah Ta'ala has 99 names, right? مئة إلا واحدة, it means 100 except one. Right, carry on. Right. من أحصاها دخل الجنة, whoever memorized them, you will enter Jannah. Carry on. Right. وهو وتر, Allah Ta'ala is one, is an odd number. يحب الوتر, he loves odd numbers, right? Right. Since ثم ليعلم or ثم ليعلم, then it should be known أن الأسماء الحسنى غير منحصرة في 99. Then it should be known that the names of Allah Ta'ala, it is not restricted to 99. It is not restricted to 99, right? بدليل ما روى إمام أحمد في مسند, but the proof of what is narrated right, and it is narrated عن عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله تعالى, narrating the authority of the مسعود الرسول الله from him أنه قال ما أصاب أحد قط هم ولا حزن, that ما أصاب أحد قط هم, no grief, no difficulty afflicts anybody except, he says, and he makes this dua, Allahumma inni abduka ibnu abdik, I am your servant, your slave, the son of your slave, ibnu amatik, the son of your female slave, bondsman, right? Nasiyati biyadik, my forelock, my forehead is in your hand. That means I'm in your complete control. Madin fiyya hukmuk, that your decision will come to pass with regards to me. Adlun fiya qada'uk, and justice is your decision with regards to me. Whatever decision you make with regards to me, it is your justice. سميت به نفسك, Ya Allah, as'aluka, I ask you, right? Bikulli ismin, with every name, huwalaka, it is for you. Sammaita bi nafsak, that you mentioned yourself with that name, right? I ask you, or every name, anzaltahu fi kitabik, you revealed it in your book, right? So I'm asking you, Allah Ta'ala, in all of these names, the names that you mentioned yourself in your book, the names that you reveal in your kitab, أو علمت أحدا من خلقك, or any of the names that you taught your creation, right? Right? أو استأثرته في علم الغيب, or you kept it hidden in the knowledge of the unseen by you. So I'm asking you, أن تجعل القرآن العظيم ربيع قلبي, that you make the great book, right? ربيع قلبي, the spring of my heart. وَنُورَ صَدْرِي, you make it the light of my chest. And جِلَاء حُزْنِي, and you make it the remover of my grief. وَذَهَابَ هَمِّي, and the remover of my grief. Right, so when a person makes this dua, إِلَّا أَذْهَبَ اللَّهُ حُزْنَهُ وَهَمَّهُ, Allah Ta'ala will remove his grief, his worry, right? وَأَبْدَلَ مَكَانَهُ فَرْحًا, and Allah Ta'ala will place in that place of the grief فرحًا, a happiness, right? So it was said to Rasul, أَفَلَا نَتَعَلَّمُ, should we not learn this dua, right? So Rasulullah said, Bala, definitely. يَنْبَغِي لِكُلِّ مَنْ سَمْ, it is appropriate for everybody who hears this dua that he should what? يَتَعَلَّمَهُ, he should learn it, right? Right, وذكر ابن العربي, and Ibn Arabi mentions, right, أحد أئمة المالكية, he mentions one of the imams of the Malikis, one of the Maliki imams, right? أحد مضاف أئمة المالكية, most will simply become the mudaf ilayh, right? Yeah, he mentioned in his kitab Al-Ahwaz, which is في شرح الترمذي, which is a commentary of Tirmidhi Sharif. أنا بعضهم جامع من الكتاب والسنة من أسماء الله تعالى ألف اسم, ألف اسم, that some people, some scholars, etc., they in al-kitab, from the kitab, was sunnah, and from the sunnah, right? From min asma'illah, through all the Quran, through the sunnah, all the names of Allah Ta'ala. How much you get together? Alfa ismin, 1,000 names. Allah Ta'ala knows best, right? So, right? وقال ابن Abbas, and Ibn Abbas, he says, right, with regards to the statement, وَذَرُوا الَّذِينَ يُلَحِدُونَ فِي أَسْمَائِهِ, and leave out those people who distort with regards to the name of Allah Ta'ala. Say, إِلْحَادُ الْمُلْحِدِينَ. What is إِلْحَادُ الْمُلْحِدِينَ? That they change the names of Allah Ta'ala, they make tahrif, they take it from its actual meaning. What does it mean? أَنْ دَعُوا اللَّاتَ فِي أَسْمَاءِ, they call idols in the names of Allah Ta'ala. In other words, they call out to idols, they use the names of Allah Ta'ala, but they're calling out to idols, right? Carry on. Right. Ishtaqu, the extracted Lat from the name of Allah Ta'ala. Say, see, Lat comes from Allah Ta'ala, right? So it's like also a God, right? And they say, well, Uzza, I see Uzza, say Allah Ta'ala name is Aziz, right? And Uzza is also idol. So see, Uzza is also idol, it comes from Aziz, which is the name of Allah Ta'ala, right? Right. وقال قد says يلحدون يشركون في أسمائه, they distort, interpolate, right, في أسمائه, the names of Allah Ta'ala. So وقال علي بن أبي طلحة ابن عباس, Ali ibn Talha says, narrates from Ibn Abbas, الإلحاد is تكذيب, to deny the names of Allah Ta'ala. Right. وأصل الإلحاد, the original meaning of إلحاد, في كلام العرب, in the language of the Arabs, al-udulu anil qasdi, to move away from the main thing, the main purpose, right? Right, so it is الأصل الحادي في كلام العدل عن القصد والميل والجور والانحراف, to turn away, to oppress, to turn away from something. Yeah, and also from this, ومنه اللحد في القبر, is a lahad in the qabr. Why لانحرافه? Because it turns away from the side. Lahad is right. إلى جهة القبلة عن سمت الحفر. It turns away from the side of the qibla and from the direction of the digging. So you dig like this and you dig towards the side. So you're turning away from the actual direction which you are digging. Okay, we'll stop there, inshallah. We shall continue tomorrow. Allah Ta'ala accept. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallah bihamdika, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.